Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Redshifter's Isotope85. You've probably seen this on the channel a few times in reference in other videos. I used 1102 8500 kV Happy Model motors on GymFan 2023 props. The board down here is the old Sailfly board. I believe that's the Crazy Bee F4 2.1 version. Of course, we got the Caddx Vista and the Caddx Nebula Pro camera. And this guy on top, that's a naked GoPro. It happens to be a Hero 6. This is all 3D printed with a special filament. I've had at least 4 of their other frames. None of them have broke. Top ring on one of these hoops. I had to repair once though. That's as close as I've gotten to a breakage. Oh, look, that screw's loose. Mine weighs just over 98.25 grams. I did end up flying it on this G&B 450 milliamp 3S battery for the best flight time, which brings the weight up to just about right on the nose, 139 grams. We're going to start off with that backwards take-up. How about that? And I know, Scooter Rooter, I know you're going to love this, if you're even watching this long. Tend to come to the channel and tell me about how much you don't like these. I get it. You're a ripper. You like to go fast and have fun. But this is pretty fun, and I built this specifically to be 2S. That was my goal. I know I've already shown you a 3S battery, but my goal was to build one 2S, and I found that with the combination of parts that I tried, 2S just wasn't working out. And I think I mentioned it in a video how I was disappointed in my efforts and I just wasn't coming up with anything. Changing levels on 2S with this much weight on a 2-inch prop, you know, even flying it inside, because that was kind of what I wanted. I thought if somebody wanted me to film or record the inside of their house, that this would be the type of quad I would do it with. And just changing levels and really just having the authority to fly it in a controllable manner. You had to be so spot on with 2S, with your routes, with your turns, and how gradual it is. It was hard to fly. That has nothing to do with this frame, but I'm just saying on 2S with this much weight, it wasn't doable. I do have FPV stabilization mode on this Hero 6, so you'll see that Hero 6 sort of snap every once in a while in the footage as we turn, and the internal gyro seems to catch up and smooth that out, or tries to smooth it out and then tries to catch up, or something is going on there. But this was, geez, this is weeks ago now, this particular flight. And I'll have an indoor flight to show as well. The flight footage comes in at about 2.5 minutes for the most part on most of the flights. I did find that if I used a bigger battery, like a 530 milliamp 3S battery, that the flight time didn't go up. You were just carrying more weight. So if you're looking at this sort of combination, that's where I was with those 1102 8500 kV motors. I did try 10,000 kV motors, and the flight time came down, and the controllability didn't go up that much. So that's why I went back to the 85,000 kV motors. I could have went 3S, but I don't. 3S isn't going to change the load that much in this case because you're smooth flying. But that's our inside flight. Again, is about 2.5 minutes. Let's go inside. Oh, here's our inside flight. I'm just going to show you a sample because I don't think you need to see a whole lot of this. You know, it's this is the slow, sort of smooth, get your shot sort of flying. Some of you, I think, are interested in seeing the house through a GoPro because you typically see it through an analog camera. Although I do have another Caddx Vista based whoop that I'm working on as well. The kids left their little wonky arm. I made them so they could have their virtual piano lesson sticking out there. So I had to work to avoid that. Most days I remember to take that down when they forget, especially when I'm flying inside the house. But a word about their frames at Redshifters. They've got, as I showed you in the quick specs, and I wanted to make that a strong point, is that if you've clicked on this video and you're not interested in this sort of quad, they do sell other frames that may suit you. You know, I've had at least the ones I showed you for certain have come to the channel, and they all have videos on them. But I have one other that I know hasn't been on the channel from them. It's not available for sale or anything like that yet, so there's really no purpose in making a video about it anyways. But so this would be my 5th one. They do a quality job on prints. If you've had any issues with either prints or them breaking, I sure encourage you to leave your comments down below. Your experience with working with that company as a customer down below is also another good thing, so that other people who come to this video and they might say, hey, I'm interested in a 3D printed frame, but all the ones I print break. Well, Redshifters, looks like R3D shifters.com. That's a site that I think you can get a higher quality printed frame, and they fly quite well. You know, there are limits, you know. we need some rigidity there, and there's a limit to where it just doesn't replace carbon, or it doesn't function like carbon does. But definitely check them out. So just for a quick peek, I wanted to bring these back up. I don't recall all their names, like Ion, and you can find them on their website, no problem. Their website's very clean, very well designed. So this is a 2S Whoop. This 2S Whoop is actually a little bit heavier than most because it's got a higher power, or it's got the Eachine Nano VTX. You've got a little extra wiring there. And yes, I still run PH20. And then this is a 1S Whoop with some tiny Whoop motors on it. This is 1S as well. And this is 2.5 inch, so this is press on props, 1.5 millimeter, 102 with 13,500 kV motors. Good fun, enjoy that. And this is their 3-inch version, which I used RCN Power 1202, 11,500 kV motors. Again, I think I have another Crazy Bee F4 Pro in here, the version 3 on that board. This one can do up to 3S as well, I believe. Yeah, I think so. So I just want to make sure you know that they're not limited in their quads. They have others as well. I don't have everything that they have on their site. So a couple of things about this. If Scooter Rooter is still here, I don't think he is, but so this GoPro mount, this is actually a separate purchase, so you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at this quad, is that this doesn't come with the frame. You have to buy this separately. I did learn a few things about putting this together. This actually goes together pretty easily as far as this section go, but this section is a little bit of a pain in the backside, you know, because you've got to get the lens through there. Like, I tried to put the lens in an angle. Oop, bump the camera. I tried to put the lens in here and then just bring this flap down over the top. But if you can see, this flap actually goes behind the board. So I ended up undoing that, and you got to go through. You got to go through it this way. You got to work your lens through the back side and then into the front side, and then this seats nicely down here. And it does have that pivot point for adjust for camera angle. You have access to your SD card. I think this is better access than it is on typical naked GoPro cases to the ports that you might need to use to connect your screen power. I think it's just because of the screws, if I remember correctly. These little nubbins, I'll call them down here, just so the case can screw together, I think. And then, of course, you've got your buttons over here for your back that you've got attached to your naked GoPro, and then the wire here as well. Still have access to the USB port in the front. And then you can see that Nebula Pro camera has this little cage down here in port, and that's well thought out, because if you come in kind of nose heavy, you know, that camera needs protected. I'm sure no one wants their Nebula Pro or their DJI camera in any way, shape, or form getting banged up. I did toilet tank, so that does mean it tends to lean forward rather than leaning back or wobbling side to side in this particular case. These struts are typically replaceable, so if you were to break one, whether it be on this type of quad or this type of quad, you could purchase replacements. No, they don't release the STL files. This is their business, is printing frames. We've got an adjustable mount over here for the antenna, so you can turn that screw and loosen it up, and you can move the antenna in the orientation you want. So as we're looking at it here, you can see that the Vista and this little mount down here, it kind of pushes everything forward. That's one thing I think they could redesign, because I don't know that this springiness will do us a whole lot of good if it's going to be touching this. So I don't know, maybe lowering this. You know, again, this is complicated, or it could be complicated. I wouldn't know. Moving this down as far as the build process or the print process could be a problem if we tried to move this down to where this had free movement. I mean, you saw the footage. The GoPro camera is doing an amazing job with FPV stabilization, but there's something I thought about. So when you're mounting this, make sure you do the front one first. There's a screw down there. I know it's hard to see. I don't have really great lighting to get down there in the deep dark shadows. Right down here, there's a screw that goes down vertically into the canopy, just like if it were to have a miniature version on this one. It would go right through this hole right here. So that's where that goes. Do that one first, so you can have this all flipped up clear in order for you to get that mounted. So do that one first, and then you can work the rest of them by, it's not easy. Again, it's a micro, so they're not easy to work on. So you thread your screw through here, and then once you get it lined up with the post and the support, you can bend this across, and then you can get your screw driver down through there. Same goes for the back and the other side as well. Also on the Caddx Vista, you don't want to mount this in a way to where your USB port is pointing that way. I also think having it pointed down is kind of a poor idea because you need that USB port. If it gets broken off, it could be a problem. And I think down is more likely to get damaged than up. I could be wrong about that. So I mounted mine this way, which means it's a little bit ugly. Maybe it's just me and the way I put it together. But I was dry fitting this outside the frame because getting these pieces, even without the GoPro mount on top, getting these pieces all together, I could tell it wasn't going to be simple. And there's really only one mount point, one true mount point, and it's this screw right here. It goes all the way through the Vista. Otherwise, let's see, otherwise it's just right down here where it's got kind of a friction or some sort of pressurized grip. There's a little, again, a nubbin, so like a conical shape that goes into where the screw holes are. You can see there isn't a screw that goes through there, but that's the other point that it mounts it. But, it works. I didn't have any problems, but again, you're not flying this one going plaid and having all sorts of dramatic crashes. It's made for slow flight. Thankfully, some of you may be looking at this going, hey, I thought you said this was 2S only in those other videos. I thought it was. I forgot that board could do 3S. And that was a happy little surprise. I think I mentioned trying 3S. I think I was chatting with someone, and I mentioned trying 3S on this. And they asked me what board it was, and I had a moment where I had to look it up. And that's when I went, oh, that board does do 3S. Let's try 3S on that. So I don't think 2S is viable in this format unless it's smaller and lighter in some way. But, you're not going to have Vista, and you're not going to have GoPro, I think. With a 2-inch prop, I don't know. You can do it. I should correct myself. You can do it. I flew it that way for 2 weeks. But it's very hard to fly when your control, basically your voltage is so low and your weight is so high that you just can't make good adjustments. Everything has got to be spot on smooth. There's almost no correctability. So anyways, 3S kind of solved my problems. Went back to the 8500 kV motors to make sure I could get at least 2 minutes of flight time. I thought with this rig, if someone were to ask me to come shoot their home, I could do it for free, of course, because I don't, this is not my job. I have a regular job working IT. I just have fun with quads. So check out Red Shifters, R3D shifters.com for printed frame needs. And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know down in that comment section below. And I do read them. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.